Hey everybody, today I want to share how and why the recognition of our own being is in essence what everybody is looking for if we recognize deep enough that anything that we're looking for has at its basis this sense of peace, equanimity, harmony, or just simply happiness as we call it, joy of life. And I say this because evidently, anybody who is in the path of self-realization is searching for that little nugget that is out there of being one with everything, of feeling that you don't need anything, that you are complete, that sense of completeness, which interestingly is part of the ego's sense of self. You see, when we talk about the ego is described as something, a being that has to find something in life, that is always searching for its completeness because its natural state is that it feels incomplete. So if you think about it, actually the ego is the same self, but confused with the perception of limitation. So here we're going to talk about the ego in a way that it can also be enlightening for people who can see it this way. But let's go straight into what being is. Everybody is aware. That's what we call being. Being is awareness. We are all aware. Although we can say that everybody is different, nobody is different in terms of awareness. In other words, everybody is aware in the same way. And with this, of course, I'm not talking about the knowledge or the awareness of specific things. It's just the simple state of being aware. And you see, what is fascinating in this investigation is to find that the quality of awareness is neutral. You see, the essence of awareness, of our simple being, the simple fact of being, is neutral. It has no positives and no negatives. It doesn't experience itself, or it is not manifested as a sort of positive awareness and a negative awareness. You can check this in your experience. You see, there is no negative awareness or positive awareness. There is perception that is digested as positive experience or negative experience. But the awareness that perceives it is always neutral. So that is what you essentially are. When you go down to the bottom of the investigation of self, beingness, what I essentially am is this awareness. And awareness, as I said, is not positive or negative, is non-dual, is completely preceding all the experience of good and bad, of up and down, inside and outside. Awareness is the basis of reality, and we can check absolutely that my own essence is awareness. There's nothing else preceding it. However, awareness can experience and invest itself into the fluctuations of perception. These fluctuations are positive and negative. They are ups and downs. They're inside and outsides. And when it does this, when it invests itself in that, because it can certainly do it and it will do it, then it creates the sensation of separation. Because to be positive, there needs to be a negative. So now you feel separated from the negative. If you're in a higher state, then there must be a lower state, which is away from you. And if there is an inside, then there is an outside that is separate from you. And no matter how we play the game of polarity, of duality, awareness will be able to invest itself in one of those aspects and then see the other side as separate. So this is the game of life, the game of separation, of feeling that. And as long as we do that, we are living from what we call the separate self, which, as I said at the beginning, is nothing else but awareness invested in a series of polarities, in a series of beliefs that it is something other than what it actually is. That is the mask of a God that is played on awareness. So when you realize this and you wholeheartedly want to follow this path of finding equanimity in life, you will notice that anything that is played by the mind, because the mind's nature is duality, it is polarity, it is to split and discern, to make two of one thing. And the vast amount of polarities that exist in perception alone are mind-boggling, because that's what creates the perception of a human reality, perspective. So this is necessary for experience, but it's not necessary for identity. And this is the reason why some people take this path, me included. Because what we realize that we're looking for with this desire is to find that state of equanimity that is so attractive in some people that we initially have a resonance with. We identify with them and say, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want that state of no problems, no worries, no issues, no anxiety, no depression, no anger, no sadness, no extreme happiness. I want that state of equilibrium. So naturally, we're going to find in specific ways mental concepts and mental ideations that get us closer to that, to the heart of being equanimous, of being happy, of being unconditionally happy. It's probably a great word for this, or phrase. You become unconditionally happy. You're happy simply because you're alive. But at the end of this seeking, at the end of this pursuit, if we can even call it that, we must find that what we're seeking is what we are. There is no other possibility. There is no other objective. There is no other realization in this path other than noting and knowing that what I am, what I essentially am, as I said already, awareness itself is the neutral state of reality. And I am that. What I perceive as other than that is my own ideations of life, is my own identity with the specific perceptions that exist in my experience. Because my experience is made out of perceptions. And when I identify with those perceptions, I limit myself. And as I limit myself, I engage in this seeking or this pursuit for wholeness again, completeness. That's what the separate self is looking for. is looking to complete itself because it feels separate, and it knows that it's not separate. It naturally knows it. So when we call ego on anybody or on ourselves, what we're actually looking at is the very essence of reality saying, I recognize that I'm not separate. So when we take this path is not to identify with something specific. That would be using the mind to approach the seeking with more ideas of what we are. It's a simple recognition that we already are that. It is a simple knowing and abiding there, staying there. This doesn't mean that we won't experience ups and downs, inside and outside, good or bad, positive or negative. Now, experience is by default the nature of reality. But what we do in this path, what we do in anything that has at its core the desire to be one. That feeling of oneness is not something that is coming in the future, it's now. It can be in the future because that would imply that it is not one right now, that it is two or more. That is only perception. And perception is not the reality of the self. Perception is simply the reality of the self experiencing itself. So this path is simply to recognize and be that non-dual being, that unseparated, always one with everything. And that is what we call dissolving the ego, dissolving the belief that I am separate. So all we want to do is to reinforce, give precedence to what it is prior to perceptions, awareness. It is such a simple path. And I feel, quite honestly, that anybody needs to complexify to a certain degree this path for thinking minds to approach it. Because thinking minds are always looking for methods and practices and exercises, rituals and so on. And that's what we have as spirituality in general. But the path is very simple. It is to, one, recognize the essence of who you are, which is pure awareness. And two, live from there. How does life look from the presence of awareness? And reinforce that every day, every second that it is possible. That's the essence of meditation. That's the dissolution of the ego. That is what in the law of one is called service to others. It is to live from there. It is automatic. It is not something that is done by the mind because it sort of conceptualizes what service to others is. Service to others is natural. It's a natural thing that happens as you live from this reality, from awareness. So it's a simple reinforcing of that which is. We're not making up something or believing in something. We're simply living from the knowing. And that knowing is that there is no separation. There's only you. There is a belief of separation. And that belief of separation is extrapolated from the perception that is required for experience. And so there is awareness, pure awareness, that does not need experience to exist. But experience needs to have awareness. Experience comes after awareness, or it is preceded by awareness. And experience is inevitably made by perceptions, some sort of distinction between self and other, subject and object. But subject and object also require, obviously, awareness. This path is called the inner path because it brings us to the core of our being. And realizing that if our life has been lived from a belief of separation, then the question is, how does it look to live it from the truth of our being, which is simply awareness? And that investigation, that path, is the only thing that is worth exploring as a true seeker of truth. And it's the reason why people like me who have undertaken this path personally, individually, have such a deep desire to be able to share it with others and communicate it and show it to you that it is not even possible. It is just what you are. It only takes a very, very tiny recognition and then a lifetime of application to live from this awareness. So I hope this video actually helps you get in touch more with your true essence, because that's ultimately what it's all about. It's about living from this state of equanimity that is our birthright. It is our default mode. And get out from the condition to favor the belief of separation in our minds. That's all I got today. I appreciate you, as always, listening and being interested in this path. If you have any comments, leave them in the right section here on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, you have to go to YouTube. I just want to invite you to just go into this simple recognition of who you are, which contains everything that you have been learning so far. Nothing else compares to this. And I can happily say this experientially, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. So wherever you are, have a great day, great night. Keep enjoying life, and I'll see you in the next video.